Alright, well welcome to the very first ever Dan-tasy Sports YouTube channel thing. Clearly I don't really know what I'm doing on here, however, I do like fantasy sports a lot. I might know a little bit, and even that much can help you win a championship sometimes. So if you're bored, stick around and yeah, let's get started. This could be fun. Okay, so let me introduce myself and kind of explain why we're even doing this whole fantasy sports video in the first place. My name's Danny. Nice to meet you. I don't know your name. That's probably for the best. That'd be really weird. But the reason I'm doing this is, well, I really love fantasy sports, obviously. I'm pretty excited. ESPN just came out with the new 2015 rankings, so I've got my Darvish jersey on. I'm pretty pumped, ready to go, and hopefully this will be a fun year, and maybe I can repeat. I finally won my first championship in baseball and football last year, so that gives me the arrogance to say that, hey, I'm qualified to talk about it. Another reason why I'm doing this is actually my girlfriend. She has her own YouTube channel. I'll put it down right here somewhere in this area. Fort Worth Famous. Her name's Jacqueline Levine. Go check her out. She's, well, I say that. I'm going to preface this real quick. People who watch my channel are probably not going to find her channel as interesting because fantasy sports and thrift haul are kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum as far as people's interest. I think. Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you like both. But I'm imagining most of my demographic is 20-something-year-old dudes who don't wear a whole lot of makeup. Not judging if you do. Either way, if you have a girlfriend, which is rare if you play fantasy sports, I'm one of the lucky ones. Or if you know someone who would be interested in makeup and thrift haul stuff, go check her out. She's really good, and she's really pretty too. So, but hey, hands off, she's mine. Okay, so anyway, let's get started. Now, the way that my league is set up, we keep 10 guys. So we're looking for this conversation for players who are out of the top 100. We want guys who are going to be more so people who I think have bounced into the top 50 even potentially. And that happens all the time. I mean, there will be guys who are not even ranked that maybe, at least in my household names by the end of the season. Like a pitcher last year who I knew of, but he was not by any means like a top pitcher, let alone a top 10 pitcher, is Corey Kluber. He won the Cy Young Award in the American League. And last year, if you would have said that at this time, you would have been shocked. And I'm like, really? There's a lot better pitchers in the American League. This time last year, you would have thought you'd pick over him. So I'm going to try and give you a guy like Corey Kluber for this year. I'm going to pick a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher, and a hitter who I think are great choices. So let's jump into it. So the starting pitcher I'm thinking of this year, he was a pretty highly regarded prospect. But he never really panned out with the first team that he was with. He was never terrible, but he was never that elite option. Well, last year he started to show signs of actually breaking out. And we'll even say he did break out a little bit. But I think what he is capable of this year is a massive breakout, which is why I've got him as my sleeper. Who would have thought? I'm not just picking him because I went to TCU, and that's his alma mater as well. But yeah, go Frogs. I think that this guy, he is in a pretty good situation, which is shocking considering who he plays for. I don't remember the last time we were able to say this about the Chicago Cubs. The pitcher I'm talking about is Jake Arrieta, and he's not going to have to be the ace on the Cubs staff. That's going to be John Lester's job. So at least early on, John Lester's going to be drawing all the #1 starters, helping Jake Arrieta's chances of getting wins. Now the Cubs lineup is shockingly improved. They have a lot of good young prospects. Chris Bryant could get called up at some point this year, and the guy apparently is what everyone. Yeah, I guess he's this prospect's version of Bryce Harper. Now, I know Bryce Harper hasn't achieved what the Bryce Harper status we were hoping he would, but he's still an elite level prospect with mad power. Soler also is a really good outfielder. They've got Baez. They've just got a whole plethora of guys that can come up and really do a great job. Something else, there's two other things I really like about Arrieta. His off speed pitches are going to make a lot of guys miss. He's not going to overwhelm you with electric stuff, but he is, I believe he's 6'4". He's a big guy, and that's always works to your advantage when you're a pitcher. Something else that I really want to point out that will help him a lot are his catchers. Now, I did steal this off of ESPN, so I'm not going to take credit as if this was my own thought, but having been a former pitcher, at least in high school, I can fathom and understand why this is important. When you have a catcher who can frame your pitches, that means so much to you because it will make an umpire obviously call a lot more strikes that maybe he shouldn't call strikes. When you're an off-speed pitcher, that is invaluable, especially when you don't have like high 90 stuff to blow by guys. And in the major leagues, that doesn't really matter anyway, unless you're Aroldis Chapman. So either way, I think that Jake Arrieta is going to be a really great option for you, considering that he's ranked just outside of the top 100. So if you see him and you're picking in the 80s or 90s and you're not quite sure if you have a boy in that spot, go ahead and reach for Jake Arrieta. I don't think you'll be disappointed. He could have a Corey Kluber-esque, maybe a Sonny Gray-esque type breakout here. Okay, so for relief pitchers, we're going to look outside of the guys who I consider the Elite Four, and I'm not talking about Pokemon, even though that would be fun too. The Elite Four pitchers, relief pitchers in baseball, in case you don't know who they are, it's Aroldis Chapman of the Reds, Craig Kimbrell of the Atlanta Braves, Kenley Jansen of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and drew a blank for a second, and then Greg Holland of the Kansas City Royals. In some order, that's not necessarily my order. I think I would flip Greg Holland and Kenley Jansen, and I think that would be it. So, yeah, I think that those guys are obviously your four best options, so we're looking outside of that. It seems like in every draft, you know, those four guys will get picked, but then at some point, other guys will start coming off the board. And when that happens, whenever that first guy comes off, it always seems like there's a panic. It's like, okay, oh, Trevor Rosenthal got picked. Oh, David Robinson got picked. Time for a frenzy. People are grabbing, just going nuts. For a frenzy. People are grabbing, just going nuts. And they're just losing their minds to get relief pitching. They don't want to be that the one guy on the team who stuck with the Rex Brothers of the world, like I was last year. So, if you're in that situation and you're like, oh my gosh, I need a closer, who do I pick? I'm going to give you a guy who doesn't have overwhelming stuff, but he didn't even start last year as with a closer's job. But the team that he plays for gets a lot of save situations. They always play in really close games. He's not in the best pitcher's park in the world, but the team that he plays for is really good, and they're going to get you a lot of wins. And that's Zach Britton of the Baltimore Orioles. Now, his sinker is just it gives the guys a lot of problems. So he's going to induce a lot of ground balls, which is what you want in Baltimore. So he's a guy to really keep an eye out, and if you can snag him, definitely do it. Okay, so let's talk about a guy here who I think is going to be someone who will kind of get back to his true form. Now, one of the issues I can see with him is he's coming off of a big injury, and anytime somebody does that, it is a little scary. However, with this player, he was able to come back from it last year, and at the end of the season, he posted really good numbers. Now, we're looking at a guy who has cleared 30 home runs multiple times in his career, and that was in a pitcher's park when he played for the Los Angeles Angels. Now he's playing for the Diamondbacks, and granted, outside of Paul Goldschmidt, that lineup isn't extremely terrifying. The guy I'm referring to is Mark Trumbo. Your average may take a little bit of a knock, but with the power upside and RBI upside, it's completely worth it. Obviously, he's not going to get you a lot of stolen bases, but if you spend a lot of the early rounds getting pitching and you're like, man, there aren't any power bats, yes there are. Mark Trumbo is available. Get him, and you can write me a thank you comment later if he stays healthy. I can almost guarantee you that he's going to hit really well in Arizona. I'm quite confident in this guy. So, Mark, don't let me down. Okay, so thank you for bearing through my first ever little show here. If you didn't like it, that's fine. There's even a dislike button. You can click it. I might even do it myself because I do realize I'm very awkward. But if you did like it, build up my self-esteem, give me a thumbs up. If you're feeling really dangerous, subscribe. But I'd rather you subscribe to my girlfriend. That would be even better. So yeah, do that. Yeah, so I don't really have a cool sign-off phrase, so I'm just going to walk off awkwardly. So